Thank you to all 5 members of this wonderful panel. We now have 45 minutes for discussion. So all these people will get a chance, I'm sure, to say everything they didn't get to say because I was handing out my notes. But we're open for questions, interventions from the floor. Yes.
Hello, my name is Mackenzie Bristow. I'm a English as a second language director at Elmira College, which is in upstate New York. I'd like to discuss a continuum of language policy and see what you think about it and where you stand. There's a body of research called Linguistic Landscapes, which at its core quantifies the frequency of language on a streetscape. So you might walk down a streetscape and you would count what languages are present and perhaps even their position, size, on various signs. What you might come from this is with the presence of a language, there is power. On the other side of things, one might propose that a lack of language, for example, instead of this exit sign, we might have an arrow, would be a more inclusive environment for multilingualism and fostering an environment where many people could speak many languages. So my question is, should we have more languages, more text available, or in fact, can we create an inclusive environment that fosters multilingualism with a lack of languages? And anyone can respond to that.
All right.
Can I?
Go ahead, yes.
If I could just throw out a few thoughts in response, I think that one of the important aspects of community identity is when that community is able to see itself reflected visually, that it has a public face and as well a public voice, and that public face is often reflected in signs on the street, in stores. And one of the things that the part of the language debate in Quebec was ensuring that French was the public face of Quebec. Because of the nature of provincial jurisdiction, Quebec's language law is much more far-reaching than the federal language law and applies to the private sector. And so until it was struck down by the Supreme Court as a restriction of freedom of speech, all languages other than French were banned from public signs. That's now no longer the case, but French has to be predominant on signs. And that, I think, reflected a fundamental view that until Quebec language legislation was introduced, it was possible to walk down St. Catherine Street in Montreal and not be aware you were in the metropolis of a province of 6 million French-speaking people. That it was the public face of Montreal was English. Well, that's now not the case, and I think that part of the natural claims of any community involve the right to be seen and heard. And that means planting their signs, being heard in stores, and where languages. There are some minority communities where I feel that the minority language is not a public language; it's a private code, and so I've entered stores where. I know that the owner of the store is French-speaking. All the employees are members of the family and are French-speaking, but there is no visual indication that any language other than English is used in the store. And that, to my mind, is indication of a minority language that dares not show its face and is functioning in many ways as a private code and not as a public language. And I think that when we talk about language rights, we're talking about the right to be seen and heard.